And we're back here on HQ on CBS Sports, where the Detroit Lions will look to improve upon some of their play from really all phases after dropping their preseason opener to the Chargers last week as they take on the Atlanta Falcons. Meanwhile, Atlanta will see their first look at game action. For much more on what to expect, let's go ahead and say hello to our own Logan Ryan. Logan, great to see you. Let's begin with the Falcons here and their choice to not play starting quarterback Michael Penix Jr., a move that's not really shocking to send out your starting quarterback. However, maybe a bit strange to sit your backup and Kirk Cousins as well. However, maybe this is all, for reasons of protection, but how are you interpreting the Falcons' decision to not play Cousins?
Very confusing. Very confusing. I don't know if Kirk Cousins will be on the roster this year. I don't know if this is to look for a potential trade partner to try to keep him healthy via NBA-ish type behavior. But it's very confusing. If you're going to give the job to Michael Penix and you felt like Kirk Cousins did not earn the contract that you signed him to and you drafted Michael Penix for the future and you feel like the future is starting this year, great. Michael Penix got in there. He looked good last year. He earned some opportunity this year. Then Kirk Cousins should then be the best backup quarterback in the NFL, and you keep it moving. But Kirk Cousins obviously isn't happy with the situation. And I think none of them playing just adds to the confusion of paying Kirk Cousins and drafting Michael Penix and moving on to Michael Penix, and now you kept Kirk Cousins because you owe him. So I think it's very confusing. If I was a Falcons fan, I think as an insider here or someone who's supposed to report on sports, I'm equally as confused. Yeah,
we're all waiting for it to kind of all make sense, I feel. Now, fans obviously itching to see what Penix Jr. can do. However, I feel like there's even more excitement surrounding Atlanta's top picks in 2025, and both will get a chance to prove themselves in some game action. What are you watching for in this first look that you'll get at James Pierce Jr. and Jalen Walker?
I want to see some pressures and sacks. I've been saying all day on the show that the preseason is extremely basic form of football, and it's set up to let the players who can play shine. You know, there's not that much thinking. The coaches are going to tell you, we don't want you to think, we want you to play fast. Pass rushing is a natural, instinctual thing, and they got to do what they did in college in the SEC and bring that over to the NFL and see what they can do against some NFL tackles. So I want to see the guys get after it. They obviously went this route to be more disrupted on defense, to try to come at the teams like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers who have great passing game. They got to, disrupt Baker Mayfield. So I think they went with this defensive direction in the draft for that. And I think it's set up for these guys to have success. I think they can come on the field immediately, get some pressures, get some sacks. That's what I want to see these kids do.
This will be the Falcons' first preseason game. Meanwhile, the Lions hoping for a little redemption after a sloppy preseason game number 1 against the Chargers, specifically on offense. Obviously, we take all of these performances with a grain of salt, but still, what kind of improvements are you looking to see from this Detroit offense that's really going to be under a microscope this season after losing coordinator Ben Johnson?
That's the exact part what I'm looking for, how you kind of led me there, Jordan, of losing Ben Johnson. They're going to be questioned all year long about they have an extreme amount of talent on the offensive and defensive side, but they lost both their coordinators. Now, obviously, the first preseason game, very few starters played, but they were so efficient last year in how they ran the ball and how they had the play-action passing game off that. So how does Jared Goff play without a Sean McVay or a Ben Johnson? And we kind of deem these guys as offensive gurus, game changers. That is what the storyline is going to be this year. I personally believe that Gibbs knows how to run the ball. They have a great offensive line. Amon-Ra still knows how to run routes, and Jared Goff knows how to operate the play action. I think we're going to be just fine this year. I think the consistency week in and week out and over the series of years in the future, you might see a little bit of fall off here, but I think this offense will be just fine. I think this is their chance to start to prove that and start to shift this narrative because they know this question's coming immediately every performance this year.
Yeah, they still have some bright spots, and even despite the loss, several young players performed well and were a bit of a bright spot. And another bright spot for the Lions has been the return of Hutchinson from his injury. He obviously didn't play the preseason, but what we're hearing is that he is so back, Logan, on the practice field.
Yeah, and we obviously need to see it in the game, and we'll see how much we see of him. But this is a huge opportunity because he was a huge missing piece last year. Not only a dominant rusher and playing one of the best players in one of the most impactful positions in football, but kind of like the heart and soul and energy and embodies that city so well with how he plays. He almost has like a Max Crosby effect on this organization and this city. So I think his energy was missing a little bit last year. Obviously, his production was missing last year. And we called for the Detroit Lions to figure out their pass rush. Do they bring back Zadarius Smith? Do they find a ways to add rushers? Well, Aiden Hutchinson is going to decide that pretty early of, okay, Hutch is back. We're good on the D-line. We like what we have built around him. Or we need to get some help for Hutch because he's going to take some time to get back into shape. So how this defensive line plays and the energy that they feed off of him is what, they were missing last year. I'm excited that he's going to be back and obviously looking well so far in practice.
Yeah, Lions fans love to hear that. Actually, according to the Lions official website, Hutchinson has been so good in practice that Coach Dan Campbell has implemented the Hutch rule. The Hutch rule is when Hutchinson actually beats his lineman and registers a hypothetical, obviously, sack on the play, and the coaches actually ignore it and let the play continue so the offense can get some work. And do you have experience with this? Is this like an actual rule? Have you heard of this?
No, I haven't heard of that. I wish we had a Brady rule in practice that when he was completing too many passes, we could tell him to stop throwing it. But no, I didn't come across too much dominance. There was no Darrelle Revis rule where Darrelle had to stop covering players because he was too good at that. So no, the teams I played for, some of the guys I played with, they didn't have rules for them. They just kept dominating every single play. You either had to deal with it or it's going to be a tough day for you.
All right. Logan Ryan, always great to see you, NFL analyst, giving us a little insight into back in his playing days. Here on CBS Sports HQ, you can catch every single play, every highlight from the NFL season right here on HQ, streaming free 24/7.